If you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. And it is for the players. It's not just a game. A game is Monopoly. A game is, you know, Scrabble. A game is, you know, any video game. This is much different. In fact, a lot of world-class players actually call it sport. And they have Olympiad every 2 years from around the world. It's quite the deal. It's huge. I wish it was bigger in this area, but we're going to try to change that.
Just a few reasons why John Cordisco started the Broome County Chess Championship nearly 4 years ago. Players got together in Binghamton to compete for a big trophy and prize at Cordisco's Chess Center on Shenango Street Saturday.
When you're playing chess on tournament day, you forget about everything else in life, and all you worry about is 32 pieces and 64 squares.
Games run through Sunday with nearly a dozen people competing this weekend. There are 2 categories, open and reserve, for players of different skill levels. Many hope championships like these will bring more people to the game.
There are now ways to play that are kind of high-tech on the internet, but it's really a very old game, and I don't know why it doesn't. I think we just need someone like Fischer to give chess a shot in the arm.
For the younger people, I think that's a great thing because they really have to think, and you know, when they're on Facebook or they're playing their video games, and it just becomes second nature, but this really makes them think.
But the event means more to Cordisco than just handing out trophies. Every year, he holds it in honor of his brother Francis, keeping his memory alive.
My youngest brother, he wasn't a chess player, he was a hockey goalie. He was a good one too, but he passed away a couple of years ago. My parents were pretty emotional when I first did it, and his 2 boys, my nephews, you know, they know about it, and they really appreciate it. It's pretty cool. It's just something that I do, you know, to honor him. It's sad in a way, but it also isn't, too, that he still carries on.
Building blocks of a tradition that means so much to so many in the Southern Tier, and one that Cordisco hopes will make chess big again. In Binghamton, Elise Micalanis.
Well, folks, another great tournament. The 2015 Tradewise Gibraltar Chess Festival, being played in Gibraltar. Unbelievable scenery. Gibraltar is an amazing place, World-class players, one of the top-rated opens in the world. Karl Nakamura, Topalov, ex-world champion, Huey Fan, you name it, they're there. Oh, a whole lot of English players, you name it, they're all over the world. And they all come here to Gibraltar once a year for the Gibraltar Chess Festival 2015. From January 26th to February 15th, 2015. Don't miss any of these great games. Hi folks, John Cordisco back again. Another game from round 3 of the Gibraltar Chess Festival. This is the Masters section. Individual I'm not familiar with. Nakamura-Rd.3, I believe it's pronounced. Rated 2579. Pretty good player, almost 2600 as white. And of course, my buddy, my compatriot from the United States, Karl Nakamura, one of the elite players in the world, in the top 10, rated almost 2780. It's a pretty good game. It's a Sicilian. It's a C3 Sicilian, so let's get to it. A little different in the exchange in the center with the C3. D4, Knight C6, Knight F3. This is an interesting choice. E6. I'm wondering, maybe did some preparation white with the C3 Sicilian. It's seen. It's not like it's unseen, so. Computer gives the line Bishop F5 instead. Bishop E3, Knight F6 is the other line. Knight. C takes. Bishop C4. What about an even game? Well, they went the E6 line. Bishop E3 anyway. C takes. Now the computer likes C takes, and by almost a half a pawn. That's a lot in an opening move. I think all of us, me included, would probably take with either bishop or the knight. If you take with the knight, it gets a little more problematic, because if you take with the knight, it ends up the queen is right on this square here, and this bishop can't get out very well. So obviously these guys are world-class players. They're going to play the correct move. C takes. I'm just don't like the isolated pawn, but Knight F6, Knight C3. Queen comes all the way back. Good spot for that queen. It's kind of like position to get in a Scandinavian. Where do you put the queen once it's attacked in the center of the board? A crowd has said, out of hell with it, and put it back on D8. Bishop D3. Carl's a little behind in development, but it's not that big of a deal. Bishop E7, he'll be caught up soon. They both castle. And Rook C1. Pretty standard stuff. The only completely open file in the position, of course. Makes perfect sense. Knight B4. He wants to keep the light squared bishop, so he goes back to B1. For a couple of reasons. He wants to keep the light squared bishop, but I just like the way that bishop's just pointed towards the black's king side. B6. He's going to fee and kettle the light squared bishop. Bishop G5. Bishop B7. Interesting position. Looks like probably black will gang up on that isolated D4 pawn. You see a lot of games like that with the isolated D4 pawn. Knight E5. I think it was Victor Korchnoi. I believe it was the Grunfeld, or, you know, if you can't put up with the isolated D pawn, give up chess, you know. White's got a pretty active position, but Carl's fine. I'm hoping what doesn't happen is, and this doesn't happen in this game, but a lot of these open tournaments, these guys don't play in. Topalov said he can't even remember how long ago he played in an open tournament. They're all invitation only, the usual stuff with the elite players. So they're not used to having lower rated players, which presents a problem sometimes, because sometimes you'll catch somebody that's having a really good day and you're having an off day. So Rook C8, open file. Rook E1, get both the rooks there, makes perfect sense. Knight comes up, that makes perfect sense as well. That's a really good spot for that knight. I like the fact that there's no pawns on each side to harass it. So it's there. Queen H5. F5, interesting. I remember watching the live commentary, and they were very fascinated by this move. G6 is the choice of the computer, but a very close second is F5. And that's a Carl. He plays. Bishop D2, come back with a bishop. Knight C6, chase that knight off. Knight takes. Rook takes. Queen E2, H3 the computer likes. Bishop D3. White decided to go A3. I think he's worried about maybe the knight coming here at a later date, or just guarding that square in general. Carl plays knight takes. And White plays bishop takes, which is interesting because it likes pawn takes. And if he had taken with a pawn instead, Queen D5, Rook E5 was a decent continuation. Basically, the game is even. It's even. It's about 3/4 of a pawn advantage for black. So maybe B takes was more accurate. I can see why he did it. You're going to have an isolated pawn no matter what. But I think B takes a little bit better because it connects the C and D pawns. Queen of D5. What to do, what to do. Do you play F3? Do you play Queen F3? And that's what White does. Nakamura trades. Now his pawns are just butchered. I mean, look at this nonsense. This is isolated. These two are doubled. This is isolated. Rook F6. Now he's got a backward pawn himself. Nakamura on E6. So he's got to be careful for that. Rook C7. You can see this is coming now. What's coming up? D5. Rook checks. King F1. Rook D7. Now you can't take the pawn because you'll lose the bishop. Bishop B5. Rook takes. Rook C7. Thinking, uh-oh. But no. Rook takes. Rook has to take. Bishop D6. Beautiful. Rook takes. Bishop takes. H3, rook H6. Interesting how Carl left that A-pawn and pre there like that. He had taken upon himself instead after rook takes H6, A4. That's not as good. After rook to H6, king to G2, bishop takes, rook takes, king F8. Now, here you are. You're white, and you're playing a Carl Nakamura. Granted, white is almost rated 2600, but it's a Carl Nakamura. And you can just tell a pawn up, opposite color bishop endings with a rook each, that you're going to slowly get ground into dust. It'll be incredibly unpleasant. I mean, I'll tell you the truth. Being a pawn down in an endgame like this against Nakamura, I'd rather get my teeth drilled with no Novocaine. I mean, there's just certain people that you know are going to grind you into the dust. Carlsen's one of them. Nakamura's one of them. Kramnik's one of them. There's a bunch of guys that will just... Mickey Adams will do that too. He'll just grind you slowly down into dust. And we're going to see what happens here, but I have a feeling this is what it's going to turn out. A4, rook H4, hitting the pawn. And this is where I think the young man, as white, messes up. He goes A5. Thinking that's okay. The computer like rook B7, to tell you the truth. And after rook B4, bishop B1. But after A5, pawn takes, rook D4. Here it comes. It's a 1.5 advantage now for black. Bishop B2. King F7. Here we go. We see this coming. Rook A2. Rook B4. Rook A7 check. King comes up. And the screws are slowly turning. Rook C7. Rook B6. Naka's getting set up here. King comes up. Rook C4. Rook D6. You see this coming already. Rook A4. Rook D2. And the screws are slowly turning. F4 check. King comes back. Bishop. Nakamura blocks. Or I should say pins the bishop. Doesn't take. He knows taking is a draw. Give you an idea. Well, the computer like rook takes after bishop takes G6, king F3. It shows a 2-point advantage for black, but I'd be hard-pressed to win this one. It'd be a lot harder with the rooks off the board, I think. And Nakamura decides he's not going to trade. King F3, and he slowly gets his forces all lined up. King E2. Bishop C1 makes come back. Now that rook is frozen. This rook has to babysit this pawn now. Or he has to move the king again. Rook D5. Rook C4. Bishop A3. Rook C6. It's slowly creeping up in points. 2-point advantage now. Bishop D6. Go after that pawn. Rook C4. He's got to guard it. Rook A5. Here comes the rook swinging around. King E3. Rook A3. White's making it really hard for Nakamura. I'll give him that. But slowly the technique comes through. King F6. Bishop B8. F3. Interesting might have been H4 than Bishop D6, but Naka's got this under control. Rook to A1. Here we go. King to F2. And Bishop A7 check. Tough duty indeed. And that's where the young man decides, hey, to heck with it. I'm playing a Carl. He's zeroing on my weaknesses and my pawns. I'm doomed. I'm done. Anyway, folks, that's another game from round 3. Congratulations to my compatriot, Carl Nakamura, on another win. Give you an idea what would have happened after king to e2, rook to h1. It's over. So, well done by Nakamura. I'm not sure about the middle game. I thought maybe Nakamura gave him more chances to draw than I think that he should have, but his techniques in the end. You want to go against Nakamura in a rook pawn ending, even with bishops? Be my guest. You're a masochist. Anyway, folks, that ends the video. I hope you enjoy it. And I want you all to remember, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.